Hey everybody, it's Mr. Marshall at Stony Lane. So we've been talking together about researching, and I've been researching a lot about how planets change, right? Remember that? So last time when we were together, I found this fact about how volcanoes on Venus erupt and cover the whole planet with lava. Okay, and I wrote that whole big long sentence out. And when you're doing research, you're going to have lots of facts, and you got to write them down. Otherwise, how will you remember, right? So, but what I want to teach you is how, when you're writing during research, when you're taking notes so that you remember stuff and so that you can grow ideas, there's lots of ways that you can do it. And I know you've learned a lot of those ways. Like when we were studying nonfiction together, you probably learned a bunch of different ways. And sometimes, when you're little, the teacher tells you, I want you to use a T-chart, or the teacher says, I want you to make a sketch. But now that you're doing research, you kind of have to be able to decide which kind of writing works for you because of what you're thinking about. Okay. And so um, you can use any kind of writing about reading that you've learned about, but you can also make stuff up on how to write about your reading because it just has to make sense to you, right? Because you're writing it down for you. And then later on you'll write it over. You'll think about it and write it so that it's like a book or a slideshow or something for your readers. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So, for example, here's the fact that I had last time: volcanoes on Venus erupt and cover the whole planet with lava. So that's an important fact, but it's only going to help me if I can have a thought about it. So I might decide that I would use a T chart because a T chart is really anything that has a two-part um, note, meaning like here I have a fact and here I can have a thought. So what does this make me think? Volcanoes on Venus erupt and cover the whole planet with lava. That makes me think. It makes me think that Venus. I'm not even rolling out all of Venus. I'm just putting a V with a circle around it. Venus probably has like layers and layers, right? Because here's Venus, and then a volcano erupts and it covers it with lava, and another one erupts and covers it with more lava, and then more lava, and maybe that makes Venus grow, right? Venus has layers and layers of rock, right? Because I know that that's how volcanoes work, right? And maybe that means that Venus keeps growing because of these volcanoes. You see what I'm doing? I could write as many thoughts as I can think of. Okay. And I have to make sure that they're really, smart thoughts, the kind of thoughts that could really happen. I can also write things that I wonder. I could write down what that makes me wonder, right? So that's one way I can use a T chart to take my notes. Okay. Another thing I can do is I can make a sketch, right? Because we learned about that. You can make a sketch when you're reading nonfiction and then write about your sketch. So let's see. Another fact that I just read about planets changing, and this is like my reader's notebook that you're looking at right now, okay, is that craters, those are big holes inside of, on the surface of a planet. I'm going to use a marker so you can see it better. Craters form when a planet is hit by an asteroid. So I just jotted that down, but I don't want to just jot it. I want to I'm going to make a sketch. So here's my planet, and the example I was reading had Jupiter. Okay, and so there's craters that are like these big holes. Okay, so I'm going to label that craters, and I'm going to write about that. Um, craters craters form um, in clusters because lots of asteroids hit the planet in one place. So that's another strategy I just jotted really quickly. Sketch, label, right there, write. I can label again and write again and label again and write again. So that's another way that I can write about my reading in this research, in this nonfiction. Okay. I can also just like make something up, not the fact, but the way I write about the fact. Okay, so let's say that I'm reading and I find more information. Let's go back to my book on Mars because I want to read more about the ice caps. So let's see, where did that go? That is right here. So it's right here. This picture, I showed you this a couple of lessons ago. Let's read more about this. Okay, so it says, after discovering the Martian polar ice caps in 1666, astronomers watched them grow larger in winter, smaller in summer. Observers were sure this was a freezing and melting process. They thought Mars must be like Earth, which has its own ice-covered poles. Astronomers in the 19th century mistakenly believed that Martian canals were channeling polar water to cities in drier regions. In the late 20th century, space missions. Ah, okay, so now I've got polar caps have carbon dioxide inside them. Carbon dioxide ice. The poles can be as cold as 195 degrees Fahrenheit. That doesn't seem very cold. Over millions of years, layer after layer of ice and dust have been deposited on the poles. By drilling through this ice, scientists may someday study the layers and learn about changes in the Martian climate. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to just jot down a couple of important words and see if they help me grow an idea. It says 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Um, hmm, hang on. And it shows that there's different layers, right? So it shows that there's soil, dust, frost, ice. So I'm showing the different layers, and what I can do is I can show how it changes. Like this is the the warmest part, and this is a little cooler, and this is cold. I can show how there's a flow. As long as I can understand that these layers are different temperatures, I can understand that and then I can write about it later. I can make up a way to write about my reading. Okay. One last way that I can do this is something else that I learned is to make a word box. So when you come across vocabulary, right, that's about your topic, you can do the same thing. You can make a word box like this says canyon. That's part of the surface of Mars. I can make a box and write the definition in here or maybe even sketch it. So when you're taking notes, you can use any of the ways that you've ever learned to write about reading, especially in nonfiction, to write and take notes and grow ideas. Okay, and don't worry if you're not reading about outer space, you can do this with any topic that you're reading about in nonfiction. Okay, so do that in your reader's notebook, and it'll help you grow lots of ideas. Okay, and then you'll know more about what you want to write about and what you want to research. Okay, thank you. Try that out, and I will see you next time.